Hey, this is our case presentation over case one. It's by Fedoruk, Marvin Rodas, Reese Wellings, Logan Miller, and Mason Mitchell.
So basically, in the case background, we'll be talking about the history gap, the industry synopsis, and the introduction to GPS program, which is what the case is mainly about. So GAP was founded in 1969 by Donald and Doris Fisher. It grew very quickly, getting 25 locations by the time it was 1973. It's only 4 years. They bought out Banana Republic in 1983 and Old Navy in 1994, which would probably be their two biggest clothing apparel lines that they have, I would say. They have some more, but those are like their two main ones. Um, Mickey Drexler became CEO in 1983 as well. And whenever he was introduced, like the revenues were just under 500 million a year, which is pretty good for back then. And then by the time he retired, they were at about 10 billion. So that's a pretty good jump, I would say. Um, so basically, the industry that they're in, they specialize in various clothing apparel. They sell products through retail and online. They got 3,200 locations in about 50 different countries, and then online they sell to about 90 different countries that they ship to. So pretty global. Their competitors include like Abercrombie and Fitch, American Eagle, Hollister, and basically any other like clothing apparel you can think of that's out there. That's their competitor. Um, so the introduction to GPS, which is what the case is mainly about, it stands for Growth, Performance, and Succeed. Basically, after the recession in 2008, the company, like every other company back then, kind of took a little bump the road. And so by the time it was 2013, they wanted to change a few things. They needed to increase performance, all that stuff. So they mainly wanted to focus on the managerial staff, to start out with. And so they hired Olander Crane to be in charge of it. And with the help of him and a bunch of his colleagues, they did a lot of research and they came up with GPS. And its main thing is to affect the performance of the managers, but they also wondered, like, oh, is this going to affect the retail side, like the salesperson that they're under? And how would this affect like the HQ type employees, not like your middle managers, but like the HQ? And yeah, that's basically what we're going to be talking about.
So the central issue that we see in this case, we ended up splitting it into two different parts. The first main issue being that Gap is presented with this challenge of creating a new performance management bonus system for their employees. The old system that they were using in order to kind of give their employees yearly feedback and then base their bonuses off of was not accurately doing that. And so it left employees kind of confused, unhappy, and unmotivated to continue working and growing in their positions within the company. So it was important for Gap to solve this problem in order to keep their employees motivated and just to solve it. If the issue was not resolved, then Gap would risk having employees perform lower and see an increased employee turnover as time went on. Maybe not in the short term, it wouldn't have affected him as severely, but as time went on, definitely employees would not want to stay at a place that didn't value them and didn't accurately award their performance. So, under the leadership of Rob Olander Crane, Gap came up with a new bonus management system, which they call GPS, or Grow, Perform, Succeed, and they implemented it at their San Francisco headquarters and other local locations on a smaller scale. And so this kind of led to our second part of the central issue, which is that although the new system ended up being pretty successful, within the first year, they saw an increase in employee performance and a shift in the company's culture around employee feedback and bonuses. But although it was successful, this created another central issue, which we see in the case, is that they were faced with the decision of how to implement the system company-wide. Gap is a very large company. They have almost 3,300 stores around the world and 140,000 employees. So for a company of that size, really to make any type of large-scale change is extremely difficult and has to be done in the proper way, or else there can be confusion that can take place and more harm than good can be done, especially in something as sensitive as giving employees feedback and the method in which they do it. As well as bonuses. It's important for them to implement this in a way that will actually work long term for everybody. If they are kind of halfway in about implementing this and halfway out, or they don't fully execute it to the expectations of upper management, then it can turn out to be a mess. So for them, it was really important to implement it correctly. And that's kind of the central issue that we see in this case. And next, we have the few possible solutions that we came up with in order to solve this.
So we have our 3 possible solutions. They are gather, test, and to accommodate. I'm going to go through these one by one and take a few minutes to explain what each of these really means. The first one is called gather, and this one is all about respecting the existing culture that exists within retail store levels. This is a culture that is going to cooperate with that high turnover ratio. That's because people only work there part-time or over the summer. And it's also going to be a culture that preserves that level of efficiency that customers are used to when they walk into the doors. And the last thing we need to do is come in and bulldoze everything down and make all our employees feel uncomfortable with a new and drastic management shakeup that might not even be applicable. And the idea here is to securely identify through the most accurate sources, which would be first-hand sources, through anonymous surveys, phone calls, and face-to-face meetings. We gather all the information from the most amount of employees who work at retail level locations, and we use their feedback to decide if we need to implement new management or not. And the second solution is called test. And this one's going to be all about where the retail store locations are inside the organizational life cycle, which is going to be maturity. We can see that the next stage is decline, and ideally we want to prevent that, and that means we have to establish new competitive advantage. We've been in the industry for a long time. We kind of know our competitors. We know what our customers expect. And ideally, implementing new management is not something that's going to affect any of these things, but you never know. And also keeping in mind that we're trying to keep prices as low as possible to not affect our bottom line at all. And that is something that is directly associated with our low-cost leadership strategy, meaning we're trying to keep prices low for our customers so that we don't lose them and that they can continue to indulge upon our brand and what they like about it. So this solution is keeping all of that in mind, and we're going to implement the management strategy that was adopted by headquarters recently, but we're going to do it safely. We're going to dip our toes in the water instead of plunging head first, because you never know how this turns out, and we're going to select a few locations here and there around the country, and over the next few months, maybe a year, we observe how they do, and if they do well, maybe we adopt a few more stores, and we continue to observe, and eventually we can come to a consensus based off of this data if we should fully implement this management across all retail store locations, or if we should not. The third solution is called accommodate, and this one is going to be focused around the arguments of efficiency versus motivational approaches to management. At a retail level, we're probably looking at the efficiency level of management. We're trying to get customers what they want as quickly as possible through face-to-face contact and helpful information, being quick at the cashier register, helping people find stuff when they need to, getting people into the changing rooms and outside of the changing rooms. And this is something that's going to have a lot of high task identity. We're able, as an employee who works there, to see the customer come into the store and leave, but contrary to something like headquarters, which might have a lot of high task significance, being at a retail store level, you're probably not going to have a whole lot of meaning coming from helping people buy a bunch of clothes. And the idea here is to celebrate that task identity by offering a reward that goes hand in hand with that. That would increase motivation to be more helpful, more upbeat around customers. And the idea is to give them something they can put on their resume that would help showcase their performance, which would help further their careers, because we're talking about people who are maybe only at this location for not very long. Maybe they're only working part-time, maybe they're only working over the summer. So the article talks a lot about bonuses and how that is something that really people strive for at upper management and headquarter level positions, but that might not transfer directly here. So really we're going to accommodate the people who work at the retail store levels and give them something they could actually use as a reward to drive forward, because again, we're using the efficiency approach at a retail level, which means we're lacking motivation. And something else that could come out of this to kind of keep in line with motivation, getting that up, is more face-to-face meetings, or just meetings in general between employees and employers. And this could be really good in keeping with preventing discrimination and helping everyone feel like their voice is heard. And if an employee is confused about something, this is more of a opportunity to get to know their manager a bit more and be less afraid to ask questions going forward. So all of these solutions have cons, mostly being that this is going to take a lot of time to implement and to observe, but I think they also have a lot of good positives.
All right. So as a team, we decided that the best possible solution would be to test a new program. The way this program will work is the program will be tested in a few select locations before deciding whether to implement the program company-wide. This will give us the company a chance to tweak or fix anything necessary to make the program work. Also, this will help save both time and money, because if the program does not work, then only those few select locations will be affected instead of more than 3,000 stores that Gap currently owns. Another reason we chose this solution was because testing the new system also helps identify any unforeseen problems the company may face. As a result, the company could then use this information that it gains to either improve the new system for or at the retail level, or just completely decide to drop the system altogether and move on to a completely different one if it doesn't work. This way, the company isn't going all in and just hoping that the system will automatically perform like it's supposed to. So why don't we go with the other solutions? Well, solution one, which was the idea of gathering information and ideas company-wide. To be honest with you, this solution would just be very time-consuming. It involves the company going through and gathering information and ideas from its employees, and then having to sit down, sort, just go through everything one by one to find possible solutions that have no guarantee of really even working. So in addition to that, if Gap has already spent the time, effort, and research in developing their new system and it's working, then why would you want to change that? And to be honest with you, there is clear evidence that the system is effective, because in the case study, it said that there was a massive drop in clients or in complaints by employees about their bonuses. The new system also allows managers to meet with employees on a regular basis, which this helps improve company growth and make employees feel like a bigger part of the organization. And remember, there's a good quote that says, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I believe this applies to that situation. And lastly, solution three, this talked about modifying the existing program to accommodate where it's needed. To be honest with you, this really wasn't a bad idea. However, the company won't know exactly what to modify or accommodate in the program, retail-wise, until they first test it out. I mean, the company is bound to run into some kind of issues because the original system was designed for upper management instead of the lower retail management. So Honestly, it just doesn't make sense to accommodate the program without testing it first.
Okay, so to conclude this case study, we learned from GAP's case that an effective feedback performance strategy is essential for company growth. That is, implementing a functional feedback system creates a workplace where giving and receiving honest feedback is taken as a growth opportunity instead of criticism on performance. It also creates an environment where managers and employees have a sense of purpose. In GAP's case, their effective feedback system included touch-based meetings, which increased communication between managers and employees by giving regular feedback. We also learned that a strong and fair bonus system can improve a company's performance by keeping employees satisfied with their bonuses. Allowing employees to understand how the bonus system works results in them feeling the fairness of the bonus given. In GAP's case, bonuses were given closely related to their performance. So the overall central message we'd like to share is that a company who strives to implement a fair and growth-oriented performance management bonus system is likely to see positive results within overall company performance. Thank you.